Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Monday, September 2nd, and you are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. We are talking today about Andreessen Horowitz's report, the top 100 Gen AI consumer apps. We're going to do this today and tomorrow. Today, we're talking about the web apps. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the mobile. And there are some surprises in this list, and there are some patterns that are like, if you thought about them, yeah, okay, but we're still going to talk about them because it's a little surprising. There are some very interesting newcomers to this list, and I don't know, like a quarter of the apps maybe I had never heard of before I read them here, and so just to give a little bit of a briefing what they are talking about in terms of the top and what we're talking about for the web apps, the top 50, what they refer to as the top 50 Gen AI web products. They're talking about by unique monthly visits. So this is top because different people are hitting it on a regular basis. And with that, let me tell you who's with me today. I have Junmi, I have Andy, and I'm Beth. Yeah, all right. Andy, do you want to give us a little take overview on what you saw when you looked at this?
Sure. Let's have some video here. Not video, just the
Oh,
screenshot of the top 50 as well. Let me share that.
good point.
Here we're looking at the list, starting at the top left. You can see ChatGPT's in the #1 spot in terms of monthly visitors, and then character AI. We've mentioned this on other shows. Character AI is an ex-Google spin out, if you will, ex-Googler startup that has done a really incredible job, and more recently came back into Google. It was kind of an acqui-hire, and they have they've focused on creating conversational assistants of your own design as a character that you can talk to. Perplexities, Claude. What I found interesting here, though, was there's this over here on the second to the right column, you'll see chatbot app, number 34, chatbot app. It's very like Poe over here at number 8. But I think it's interesting that despite the dominance of these major players at the top left here, options where you can aggregate lots of different functionality and access multiple models like Poe and like chatbot app still have a lot of interest. So I want to just share what chatbot app looks like here for a second, because I've never thought of going and trying one of these things. I've used Poe before back in 2023, but it's the all-in-one AI chatbot. And if I scroll down here, you'll see it can be powered by multiple models. You select which model you want to deal with. It does pretty much everything. If there's a feature in one of those models, they've kind of made it really easy in a single interface on the web, but also on mobile. So it appears also in the top 50 mobile, but it's in the top 50 web apps. So people are using this product. And it's, as you see here, trusted by millions around its intuitive interface. So there are still possibilities to take what's already out there, make it easier in terms of UI, and end up with a very large catchment of users. It has a very low cost on an annual basis. It's $60 a year. If you're paying $20 a month for ChatGPT 4o, why do that when you can get all of those same things from ChatGPT 4o right in chatbot app? And that's part of the reason. It's an economic and aggregated application set that brings together everything. Where, like if you're using ChatGPT 4o, it has DALL-E, But this one can generate images from lots of different things. And so I think that's kind of interesting.
Are the models your own keys, or is it their keys that you're accessing?
Theirs.
Wow.
Yeah. So no wonder they're gaining, I think, out there.
Right.
No,
So they're like the old Netflix of new AI
right.
companies. So you
Right.
can access all the models anytime that you want. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
The other
can
thing
see
I
I can
wanted to
see how they're
mention
moving up the
here,
ranks then.
yeah. So let me jump over to a different kind of category, which is if you see here in number 9, number 9 is called liner. I've never used liner before, but this is what liner is. Oh, no, that's Luma. Sorry. This is what liner is. It's nothing. No, here it comes. How is liner different with ChatGPT? Well, liner is used by college students for research. And so liner is, let's go back to the home page here, accelerate your research. And you can see here that it's a very simple UI, very sort of utilitarian, productivity app. And it's I think a competitor to a large degree with what Perplexity can do. And I think Perplexity is being used by some students in the college arena for similar reasons. But this one being at number 9 in the top 10 was a bit of a surprise to me. And there's one that's similar called Golf. And it's not in the top 10, but I think it's around 30 or something in this list that we can go back to. But it's the AI homework helper. Now, I'm going to turn it back to you guys because I wanted to show you these things that were kind of outliers compared to the predominance of, kind of creative and or entertainment oriented things in the consumer web apps driven by AI. But here's at least some good news. College students and high school students using these AI tools in sufficient numbers that these tools show up among the top 10. And whereas I can't look quickly to see where not liner, but golf shows up. Oh, here it is over at number 44. Yep. See over here on the far right.
So before we move on, I just had a quick question, Andy. So liner and golf, they're for student help, doing research, doing homework, things like that. What makes it better or different than Perplexity? Or is it just different version of Perplexity? Is it like, do they list sources, or
it provides citations and does all those things that way? But I'd have to look at it more carefully and try it to make a distinction between that and Perplexity. Perplexity I use, of course, as a general research / search agent for me, because it does a very rapid collection of lots of different sources relevant to whatever I ask it. Liner may be more about, let's not guess. Take a look at Liner. Liner is being used by a ton of people out there for research specifically. So let's leave it at that.
Well, and at a minimum, Liner and Goth are marketing themselves specifically for an academic market. We don't, off the top of our heads, know whether that carries to that it has more citation, it has more instructions about how it uses those things. But Perplexity is like where knowledge begins, right? Isn't it something like that is their thing? And these are like, hey, need homework help? You're at the right place. And I have to say that the homework help thing is also rolled into ChatGPT's stats, because ChatGPT sees a huge bump in September every year. And what's happening in September? Hey, students are going back to school and they're going to need some help. So yeah, that's definitely like one of the major pieces of driving traffic in these web apps. Was there anything you noticed, Junmi?
Well, I wanted to concentrate on the generative AI side of video and those kinds of things, those different modalities. And for anybody who doesn't know, modalities just means different type of media. That's all. Whether it's video, image, sound, text, modalities. Okay. So of course, our top 5 are pretty well known in the AI space. With character AI being the top of the interpersonal experience chatbot, right? And then by looking at some of the other ones, just going through and seeing what they might be, because there's a few on here, like number 6, janitor AI. I had never heard of it before this report came out, and it's number 6, right? It's in the top 10 of most used or most visited Gen AI web products. So what is janitor AI?
Yeah. Also would not have pegged what it is based on the name janitor.ai.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely threw me for a loop when I'm like, is this the right one? Am I going to the right one? And it is. So janitor AI is another one of those interpersonal chatbot sites, just like character AI, just spicier.
Right. So is this like, you sort of heard that the most that for heterosexual relationships, the most exciting thing that a man can do is vacuum, right? Like, is this where janitor came from? Like, what is happening here?
I have no idea. But that actually leads me to another point. And this seems to be indicative of all of these personal chatbot sites, is the type of chatbots that are being created are definitely in the Gen Z, late Gen Alpha area, tweens, teens, and young adults. And so when I'm looking through this, there's a couple others that popped out. Andy, you had mentioned Poe. That was that's where you could have multiple chatbots. But things like Spicy Chat, at least that one sounded like what it is. Candy AI, that kind of sounds like what it is. Crush on, there's just so many that are in the high ends of this top 50. And so there seems to be a trend of just having different ways of creating these chatbots, filling certain niches and things like that. And I found that interesting in the broad sense, because that means there's a demand for people to have some sort of interpersonal relationship of whatever it type might be, and this is filling that niche. And so now I got to look at reports on how disconnected people are and how lonely they are and things like that. And maybe that is one avenue or path that in the realm of self-care, mental health care, and things like that AI can do some good in. So that was just one of the interesting patterns that I saw. It was just like, oh, of the top 50, a good chunk of them seem to be these interpersonal chatbots. So I don't know exactly where that's going to lead to, but it was just an interesting bit of information that I pulled out from it.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I thought it was really interesting. I also thought it was interesting that there is, and maybe this is more Gen Alpha, Gen Z, there is an innate inclusivity. So on several of them, you go and it says, hey, are you interested in women, in men, or non-binary? And there are others that give you that exact same panel, except are you interested in women, in men, or anime? Right? Like, so like there is something for you wherever your personal interest lies. And I assume you get to choose multiples, right? Like today, I would like to speak with in a spicy way, I would like to speak with this. And character has kind of been doing that. It's just that you made your own. Like, it wasn't intentionally spicy. It wasn't intentionally. It was just intentionally that you could talk to characters. You could make a character and have a chat between them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nice. Andy, anything else? I'm gonna pull up my own stuff, but
Yeah, I wanted to mention that in that area that you were talking about, there's names on the top 50 list that I didn't recognize. Chub.ai, very similar to Janitor, but there's a banner at the top of that one that says banned from OpenAI, get an uncensored alternative. So there's definitely some darker spaces out there in the world of AI characters. But I want to jump over, and Jimmy, I'm really going to lean on you to explain some of these, but I want to jump over to the sort of the video / image manipulation tools that are out there. And I guess I'll share my screen again because I want to show you this one that I thought was really cool. That's brand new to the top 50. It's called Viggle.
Viggle's hit big. Yeah. Go ahead, bring that up.
I will.
Yeah, Viggle.
So here's
Viggle
the top 50, and you can see Viggle is right at the top in the middle here at 21. Yep. So to jump onto the board at 21, pretty cool. So let's go take a look at Viggle. They've got a nice video demo here of what it does. It says you're going to be able to make any character that you choose, whether it's an image of you or it's an image of anything else, into a motion video. And what's showing on the screen right now is you get a character drawing, you provide a video of a dancer, and it will animate the exact same moves that you provided on the video into that drawing. Mm-hmm. Or you don't even have to provide a video. You can just give it text prompts. Here's an example they're showing on the screen now where it says, young man wears a black t-shirt and dances happily, cross-legged, swinging arms. And there's kind of a photorealistic video that comes out, as a result of Viggle. So you can take anything. Here's a person's, snapshot, like a selfie, and then they make it into a more artistic rendition. And so people are having a lot of fun with Viggle out there.
Right.
Similar. Go ahead, Jimmy. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that Viggle's hit in the nice little Venn diagram of, a fun app to use and appealing to just the general user, because we saw it hit really hard in things like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, because people were taking existing video, like concert footage of a performer, and then putting their character on it. And that was a big trend for, I at least saw it in my feed for at least a week. And so what Viggle's been able to do is, here is a fun tool for you to play with. Yeah. And they have, and it's because they're able to both be on a web page or a website and in mobile, right? And because they can do all of this, they have access to so many more people. And because it's something fun, like like an add-on to TikTok or filter, those kinds of, it's in that same realm that people are just jumped onto it. So seeing it at 21 makes a lot of sense, because it got popular really, really quickly.
Well, and also, like, Viggle is made for TikTok dances, which is an entire trend, jump on, be able to go viral if you have some sort of unique take, or it's a particular, I don't know, why did things go viral? It hit at a particular time, bunch of people watched it, then it just got pushed to everybody. But that's one of the stories of this list also. If you can tap into something that is already a churned market, right? Something that is already rolling, and you've just added a little piece that makes it easier for a bunch of other people to get in on it. That is 100% like a way to jump on this list, and Viggle totally did it.
That's a great point. I like to tell people. A friend of mine, he told me one day, and it changed my perception of business. Is what the most successful businesses are the things that take what everybody knows and changes them just a little bit.
Yep.
And then they always do fantastically.
Well, and that what Andy was talking about before, right? There's in like AI startup industries, there's always a question about whether OpenAI is going to kill your app, right? Have you just made a wrapper app for OpenAI, and is OpenAI's new capabilities going to mean that doesn't matter anymore? And it does seem like, well, the one of the lessons in this is if you wrap everybody, right? Like, let's just keep bring them all in. None of the individual companies are going to kill that, because they're not going to wrap everybody else up into their apps. And that is, I think, an interesting thing. Nice. Andy, yeah. Were you going to show us, you had Dream Machine teed up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So in this same genre, things that you can use to create wonderful, images and videos. Here's the video one here. Let me just go back to the list, but before I show it, let me see where it is. It's right here at number 14. You're very familiar with it, Luma AI, and this one, if you can see on the screen right now, it's showing you it's kind of a carousel that's demonstrating different short form videos that have been generated using Luma. And basically anything you can imagine. There's on the screen now, it's saying new freedoms of imagination. It's an AI model that makes high quality, realistic videos fast from text and images. So you don't have to start with a video camera. You just put some images in there, and it's going to kind of mash these things together in a beautiful way. Have you used Luma before, either of you?
I have a little bit when it first came out. I haven't tried the updates, the recent updates to 1.5 to see how they compare to the original outputs. But their original outputs were pretty much in line with what existed out there, right? They can look particularly good. And of course, anything that you see that's presented to you will always be the cherry-picked versions. Absolutely. But so if you're thinking the latest Runway, the latest Luma, the latest of any of those types of things, and hopefully one day Sora. But I think we're up to, I'll have to check the list, but I think we're up to 200 days now, right? Something close to that. I don't know. But the output's fairly comparable. What I haven't seen, or I should say, when comparing it to something like Runway, Runway still has all of those other video tools that can manipulate the video. So it's still kind of a little toss up in terms of which one's going to be better for you. But I do want to get into the 1.5 update and see if just across the board the outputs better, because you may not need all those other video tools, though it is convenient that it's all in one place, and just create your outputs and then take it into a more traditional editor or manipulator of some sort.
So one of the things that I really love, one of the things that I really love about Luma is it's actually got a really generous free plan. And so let me add this to the stage, which I am hoping it works. And so one of the things that Luma's really great at is, are you guys seeing anything? Because I am not seeing anything.
We got it.
There we go. Cool. So Luma is really great at interpolating, is that the word, maybe, Junmi, between two images that you create in you can create them in any image generator, right? And so I have created these basically dancers as light, and it moves between the first image to the second image.
Yeah, I think interpolation
And that
is,
is like a really interesting idea. You start to be able to just give like some of what would happen between a bunch, but it's sort of new for me in terms of video.
Right. Yeah, and this kind of goes along the lines of some other things that we've seen, and that might be points to maybe the underlying technology, but it's being able to do the mapping, or like you said, the interpolation between two sources, right? We've seen back in the day, early on, there was Wondershare, and Wondershare came up with take your existing footage and then take your 3D model character and map it onto your character in your footage, and it would match the movements and everything like that. And essentially, in a way, that's kind of what Viggle does, right? It does that, but in a very in a box kind of situation, and so to improve the results. So I can see the same kind of thing here in Luma, is having that mapping tech, right? And that seems to be that one level higher of being able to have consistent characters. Because if you can create the character first, and then you can create all the motion and all that kind of stuff as a separate source, it's more mapping it, as opposed to telling your model, create the movement and the character and the environment and weave them together in this way by giving them enough direction. So tools like Runway, they seem to be this more umbrella look, and they've said it, they're trying to create a world model where every part of the world and the physics and all of that kind of stuff, the environment, can be manipulated and directed. Whereas these tools seem to be, let me identify these things, right? Speaking towards like Meta's recent SAM2, which recognizes segmentation or object segmentation within a video image, right? They were just released that a couple of weeks ago. So, and this is kind of what I think is the underlying tech behind Opus as well, is because you can identify in any video, the arms. You can identify, like in a sports video, you can identify, oh, that's the ball. All right. And here are the individuals. This is where they're moving and how they're moving and things like that. And this general tech isn't new either, because we've had object detection before. So this is just that next level. And I think with all of these different video applications, that modality is where we're seeing all of this improvements, because they're all just being layered on top of each other, just in different approaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And and it's one of those things that I think when image generation first was starting, right? When an image generation was first starting, it was very abstract, and you really needed to get into the Picasso-esque experience of having something that vaguely resembled a human face, but was not anywhere close. But then as it started to get closer, you would start to like something would be off. And it would be that the eyes are just a little funky, or the facial expression, right? Like it didn't really get to that place. And now we're at a place where that is fairly common, more common. That seems to be what's happening, that I'm noticing with video as well, right? So this part of it is the world view, part of it is the segmentation, but part of it is just understanding how what's on the screen moves. June clued us in early on that one of the first things that he does is test water or liquid. Because even now it's not quite moving. It's a little more viscous than actual oceans are, or coffee, or like whatever that is, right? Like that's one of the things. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, that's like you said, I test water, I test hair, I test camera movement or direction. Because if you're able to take direction from, let's say, standardized forms. There's direction in a script. There's direction from, and of course, direction from the director and the director notes, all these kinds of things. These are standardized. A lot of these are standardized methods that are used. And you can take that and use those to train your model to accept it. And then you add on consistency, right? So what a big hope for me is the seed-based consistency, or identifying, like if you could have segment seed-based consistency, that would be awesome, because then I could identify particular characters. I can identify the particular parts of a character. I can identify the environment, different parts of the environment, and each of those have their tags or their seeds or anything like that, and then just make, just like, oh, I need this mountain to seem older, like it's 1 billion years older or something like that. So we'll get more Appalachian style as opposed to Rocky Mountain style, those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that I'm really looking out for in the next level of apps, generative AI image and video apps. But speaking of image apps, not as popular in like newcomers, because we're seeing all the other modalities, more video, more audio, like with Suno and Udio and things like that. I noticed on this list, Midjourney is 18, right? So it's definitely dropped in what I've seen in how people are using Midjourney in terms of monthly visits. But again, remember, this is also web products. So this is not counting API access. This is not count,
Right. But Midjourney doesn't have API access.
Right. Well, what I'm just saying is, like, in general for these tools. But the key thing I want to note out is now it is less than Leonardo. And Leonardo just a few months ago came out, or maybe it was about a year ago. Who can tell in AI time? But they were an up and comer. Their focus was portraits. That's what they focused on. They were really good at doing that. Then they came out with some add-ons or improvements and things like that. And now they're above Midjourney in unique visits.
That may also be a function. That might be a function of their having been acquired by Canva, right?
I'm not sure that that's recent enough to be in these stats.
Yeah, or these stats. It's too recent to be included in the stats. I'm sure that's definitely going to go up in terms of access now that they've been acquired by Canva. But yeah,
Canva's not on this list of web apps.
Yeah.
I don't think Canva's used by consumers as much, but what's required here is that there be a very large population of users to make this list.
Right.
Canva's a real productivity tool for people who are doing graphic art, and so it's like Adobe's not on this list either.
True.
Firefly's not on this list. But if you go to graphic artists or the people who are doing the creative workflows inside corporations, they're going to be using Adobe or Canva.
Right. So Jimmy, you sort of brushed past the music generating things, and I want to shine a little spotlight on that, because those I think weren't on the list 6 months ago. Those have really jumped in the last 6 months. And Suno, which came out first, is higher in the list than Udio. Suno is actually number 5 on the list. It's like ChatGPT, Character, Perplexity, Claude, Suno, right? There's not actually even an image generator or a video generator higher than that.
I think that's because so many people love music And
Right.
now that they know they can make it really easily, that's really attracted people,
Yeah.
right? Because it's one of those mediums that people have always loved, right? People love music. It's ingrained in our human experience and all of those kinds of things. And Suno made it really, really easy.
Yep.
And you could and you can put in your influences, and it can give you really close approximations. And I think one of the thing that might have pushed it further than Udio is that number one, that it was first, so more people heard about it, but also that Suno uh, seems to be adding more features to their offering overall. It probably also helped their hype that they were sued a few months ago, and that's still being resolved. So that's in the news cycle. But one of the things is the fact that you can do stems now,
Yep.
right, in Suno. And if you make music, and I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of friends who thought themselves a potential greatest next EDM DJ, and wanted to experiment with it. And it could just be my feed, but I see in TikTok and shorts and everything like that, someone coming out with a mix, right? Because that's a
Right.
popular trend, just mashups, right? Normally that's someone just mixing it together, but with Suno, you could come up with a style and tone mashup if you want. I can even see Suno being used by songwriters and by artists, because it's like, hey, I wrote all these lyrics, but maybe I can't play the guitar. Let's add some guitar, at 4x4 or whatever. Let me see the 4 chords added to my lyrics and see what happens. So I think it just because of something like Andy had mentioned before, it's because they appeal to a wide audience, and it's fast. So you can just iterate. And they're also one of those companies that give you lots of free access as well. So that's definitely helped.
And I think you're right. Like how compare the number of times that you've heard like, oh my God, I have lyrics, I think it could make a great song. Or like, I have a melody, I think it could make a great song. I wish like I wrote a song for you, but I can't play it or sing it, right? Those kinds of conversations versus, wow, I painted a picture for you, right? Like, or I made a whole video thing like that's not in our interpersonal experiences or sharing together in the same kind of way. And so both of those, you can start from lyrics and upload your lyrics. You can start from a song idea and upload that. I think both, but I think definitely Suno, you can like sing, you can hum in a melody to the thing, and then it will either take and then prompt it as to what to do with that. But you can start with your own sound inspiration, your own melodic inspiration. There's a lot. There's a ton. I will say that I sort of feel that Suno is the gateway, right? You get in, and then if you really want to do stuff, eventually you find Udio, and you're like, oh, okay. Suno can do more, but the things that Udio can do sound really, really great. I think they got sued too. I think everybody's getting sued.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that was part of their fundraising pitch to investors. It's like, if we reach a certain threshold, then we will have enough use cases and enough money to buy enough lawyers to negotiate out what's going to happen. But I'm making a bunch of assumptions here.
So we need to wrap up, but that's an interesting thing, because OpenAI and Google, when they started this, they did not know it was going to work. right?
Mhm.
They used information because they needed information. They weren't asking permission because, I mean, they weren't asking permission for lots of reasons, but they had no expectation. They had no definitive expectation that this process was actually going to produce something that's kind of amazing. The
Or
stuff,
that 1,000,000 people are going to sign up in the first 5
right?
hours or 5 days. Yeah.
The stuff that's happening now, kind of on the back end, like you knew that, like plausible deniability, and of course for training the new models, you can come after OpenAI for that too. But there is a little like that worked like 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right.
Like, oh, we don't know what's gonna happen. Now we have a pretty good idea.
That's true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they're just planning on getting sued.
So before we wrap up for the day, I had one observation. I think if you're in the AI space, the top 10 or so makes sense to you. I don't know how much, of the different apps that you use. But I would pay attention to 20 to 50 because I think because a lot of those in that space are the early, they're newcomers. They're on the list, made a huge splash. But what that means is they may have the momentum to really pick up and, continue innovating and adapting and changing and things like that. So if you are looking for a video editing tool to add in your B-rolls and help you write scripts and, content creation and stuff like that, that's why you're seeing things like InVideo, Vid.io, things like that. And also take a look at things like, like I'd mentioned, is Viggle and Gamma. I know Andy's brought up Gamma a couple of times. They
Pleased
do
to see them hanging in there in the top
in there.
right in the middle
Exactly.
of the pack.
They're pretty niche too for what they're
And
very applied.
they had amazing capabilities all the way back at the beginning of 2023.
Yeah.
And still now they're far more advanced than they were back then, but they really have packaged together development and image generation for presentations like PowerPoint. They put the whole thing together as a presentation. Gamma is a go-to if you're wanting to present something to anyone.
So,
And it does not look like there's another presentation. There does not look, and when I'm glancing at this list, that there's another, there's a bunch of video, there's a bunch of audio.
Tome was a competitor of Gamma's early on. They don't show up here. They fell off the ladder, so to speak.
Right.
But
And
Gamma's solid. I wanted to mention
Copilot is in this, but I don't know that that's what Copilot Microsoft is in this, but as we know, that means 1,000 things. Like, what does that mean for this? We do not know that that's Copilot as a presentation. Andy,
right.
what did you want to say?
In closing, I wanted to just point out two other names on the top 50. At number 10, Civitai, which is access to open source image gen models. And they have a kind of a leaderboard of various models and creators. Definitely worth taking a look at. It's right up there, like in terms of creative juice. Take a look at Civitai at number 10. And also, I just wanted to add to the list of things that are on the top 50 that students are using. Golf I mentioned, and also Liner, but there's another one on the list, Hix.ai, which is a writing assistant, which actually, can, help you write essays and so on, but also has a tool in there that's prominently promoted to those people in high school and college. That is, humanize it so it's not detectable as AI. So that just reinforces this idea that there are a number of these things that are getting a lot of use out there in the education market by students, not by professors and teachers, but by students to try to, perform well as they go through the motions in school.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Jimmy, do you have a final thing?
Well, I was just thinking about when Andy was saying that, and I'll just wrap it up there. But the idea just popped in my head is it would be great if all of these student-oriented tools would put in an analysis and an explanation, some context explanation or contextual window or dialogue boxes that explain what were the changes they made and why the changes they were made. And that would help in the educational part of things, because it wouldn't just be a student plopping in their basic structure and coming out with a undetectable version, but it would explain why these choices were made for these particular reasons. Like this follows MLA, and this is the components of MLA that it follows. That's why we made these decisions. Or we changed this paragraph because to make it sound more human, because of, you know, whatever the cadence is or your references. There was some gaps here. You know, it provides an analysis of how they made it better and why it is better. Because if you had that to go along with the process, then I think there would just be more absorbed by the students. Now, will there always be a percentage of people who just want the result? Absolutely. But I think that might go towards more acceptance in the educational space if they provided these educational or informative elements. But like, again, that's just an idea that popped in my head.
I've seen recommendations for teachers that that flips this on its head a little bit, right? Like, go ahead, go use AI prompt, get the best essay you can get from AI, and then bring it into class. And now we're going to edit it. And we're going to talk about what you found in the essay that needed to be edited. Right? Like those kinds of things are super educational, really interactive, and all that stuff. Okay. Thank you for hanging out with us on this Labor Day in the US and Canada. And we're here all week. So tomorrow we're talking about the other top 50. So out of the top 100, it's the mobile apps. Wednesday is our news show. Thursday, everybody's talking about Cursor. Why is everybody talking about Cursor? We're going to give you our impressions and why we're talking about Cursor. And Friday is our recap show. So we're just going to revisit all these things that we've been talking about for the last week. Last week and all of this week. Thanks so much. I hope you can join us next week. No, I hope you can join us next week. I hope you can join us tomorrow and every day this week and all of your future days ever. Please come back. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Aloha.